Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here this afternoon. My name is Kara. I'm the Director of Communications for the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency. Today, we're going to provide an overview of the wildfires in the province. I'd like to note that we're recording this as well. Afterwards, it will be placed on SPSA's Facebook and YouTube pages if you would like to see the post. Today, we're going to begin by hearing remarks from SPSA President and Fire Commissioner Marlo Pritchard, followed by remarks by Steve Roberts, SPSA Vice President of Operations, and then remarks from Premier Scott Moe. And I'd also like to thank and acknowledge the folks who with us today as well. We have a hard stop today at 2:15, so we're going to ask that members of the media have one question, and the time remaining after that, we will go with one follow-up. And with that, I will turn it over to provide something like that.
Oh, I just turned on.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd really like to acknowledge the Premier and Minister Schmaltz here for joining us. And I'm just going to give you a quick little overview, and then I'm going to turn it over to Steve to go into more detail on the activities that we have seen over the past hours. Currently, we have 20 active wildfires. 8 are categorized as contained, 5 are not contained, 6 ongoing assessment, and 1 protecting values. To date, we have 229 wildfires, well over the 5-year average of 132. And before I go on, I really want to acknowledge and give my thoughts and prayers to those that have been impacted directly or indirectly of these fires. There's a number of individuals that have lost property. We've had a number of individuals evacuated, families evacuated that are sitting waiting to hear whether their property has been impacted, the fear of unknown. So again, to everyone that has had to flee these fires, I really just want you to know that we at SPSA and myself, our hearts and thoughts are with you today. I do want to acknowledge that yesterday was an extremely challenging day for our firefighters, and just so you know that many of our firefighters had to flee as their fire behavior was extreme, I guess, behavior. And it was so aggressive that they had to get out of the way for their own safety. So we did see that yesterday, and I expect that today and tomorrow we're going to continue to see high winds and some very, very challenging conditions for our firefighters. Steve will go into more detail in regards to the aspects, the technical aspects of that. I also want to take a moment to thank our firefighters, not only the ones at SPSA, but many, many fire departments that have volunteered. The call went out yesterday, and I can tell you that the spirit of support for the fire departments and the communities across Saskatchewan have been amazing. We have moved fire departments up to Orange, into Creighton. We have others that are waiting to get deployed. We're working with our first responders, whether that be police. We are working with First Nations emergency management. And we're doing everything humanly possible to mitigate and reduce future losses, protect life and property. I also want to thank basically all the citizens of Saskatchewan for the support that they're giving our firefighters. I can't tell you enough how often I'm hearing from our communities, firefighter communities of individuals, whether they're giving water or food. It is absolutely appreciated and needed in these challenging times. So again, thank you. As I've said, we're going to continue to see some challenges over the next couple of days. I can confirm that we've lost about over 400 structures to date. And we're going to continue to do our best to minimize future losses, but because of this extreme behavior, I expect that we will see a few more. So, you know, and before I turn it over to Steve, I just want to again assure you that we will continue to do everything possible just to minimize the impacts and wait for the rain that we know is going to come, but we just don't know when. So with that, I'll turn it over to Steve to go into more detail.
Thanks, Marlo. Okay, so Marlo did mention yesterday was a very extreme day and it was very busy for us. In quick summary, that means that we now have more than 400 values that have been lost to wildfire. More than 30 communities in Saskatchewan are currently in evacuation. And we have now have well over 9,000 people who are away from their homes, waiting to return and get news of when they can go back home. Example of that is we looked at the shoe fire. That fire grew yesterday and threatened, and we evacuated both Timber Bay and Malinosa from the path of the fire. We also shut down another highway because of the fire, and that was the secondary access 969. That forced us to put all our priorities on protecting the Highway 2 North, and we've gone to full escort to get people through. And that was just put into place before the evacuation order was called on Orange and was effective in making sure people could get out of Orange under evacuation order. The shoe fire is now 407,000 hectares. Interesting, did not grow significantly. It's one of the few fires that didn't have significant growth yesterday, but still lots of fire perimeter, lots of active fire there. The J. Smith fire up by Brayman also was one that did not grow significantly, but still remains a threat to the town of Brayman and Highway 102 North. Ditch fire mentioned earlier. We've added the threat for Malinosa and Timber Bay to existing threats to the town of Wackland and the community of Rams Bay. That fire is now 70,000 hectares in size and threatens the two highways previously mentioned, Highway 2 North and Highway 969. The Pisu fire, which is west of Orange, was the big event into the afternoon and of course right through the evening. The growth of that fire had us returning to Hall Lake to protect community structures there from the fire flaring up. But while that was occurring, the fire continued to move eastward towards the communities of English Bay, Larange, Arange, Black Larange, Wadden Bay, Sucker River, and Dunedin Lake. That triggered a full evacuation of those communities except for essential services personnel. At last measured early this morning, 83,000 hectares in size. This fire also impacted the airport in Orange, and specifically the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency has lost its air tanker base, and we are in the process of reestablishing that post-fire so we can continue operations out of Orange. None of the warehousing or aircraft that are managed by the Public Safety Agency were damaged by the fires, however, and are still serviceable for use. The Wolf Fire west of Denair Beach is now no longer west of Denair Beach. It has gone through Denair Beach and is now currently in Manitoba. So yesterday afternoon, we evacuated all personnel out of the town of Denair Beach. We have reports of multiple structures, significant structural damage throughout the community right now. And we will continue to reassess. All staff are now in Creighton, supporting what fire activities they can from there until we can be reestablished. The Pelican 2 fire by Pelican, now estimated at 20,000 hectares in size. It has been fairly stable in the Pelican area due to work prior by the agency. We do have some issues in the vicinity of the land of Jan Lake subdivision where we continue to support those and prevent fires from approaching there. And our final fire of note is the Club Fire north of Creighton. That fire is on both sides of the border, approximately 17,000 hectares on the Saskatchewan side, 60,000 hectares on the Manitoba side. We are partnered with Manitoba in a joint command scenario to protect Denair Beach, Creighton, and Flin Flon. That's technical summary. We'll be able to ask some questions, but I'll turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, everyone, and for joining us here today. And things are changing rapidly, and I'd say we didn't have a very good day yesterday, whether the way it was, where the fires are, and how aggressive they are as they bear down on communities. As Steve had said, we've been evacuating a number of communities in the last number of days from Timber Bay, Molinos. I thank you to those in Montreal Lake for hosting those individuals and those families in their community. And as we know, last night, the significant evacuation of the Tri-Cities, Lac La Ronge, and Airmont. I've talked to each of the community leaders last night, as well as some this morning. We have some challenging days ahead of us as we aren't through this, and the weather doesn't appear to be changing in the near future. To date, we're probably approaching in the neighborhood of 15,000 people that have been evacuated across the province and being supported in communities throughout Saskatchewan. And more families are leaving their home as we speak. And so thank you to all of the volunteers that have been involved in that evacuation. Thank you to all of the SPSA folks that are supporting that evacuation, highways workers, everyone that is involved. And thank you to the community leaders, the folks that are fighting these fires on the front lines in places like La Ronge, in places like Creighton. Many families are leaving their home and they don't know if they're going to see it again. They don't know if they're going to have the opportunity to go back there. And they aren't just buildings. These are places where they have raised their family or are currently raising their family. They're not just structures that are nailed together. They are families. It's important for us to remember when we get news like we did yesterday with significant by these fires, places like Denard Beach in the last day, and it's difficult. It's difficult for families, and I want to thank everyone across the province that is supporting those families that are displaced and all too often are experiencing a loss. We had the opportunity over the last day in a bit to have discussions with the Prime Minister as well as other premiers like Bob Canoe and Danielle Smith, who are also facing significant wildfires in their provinces as well. And I can assure all Saskatchewan residents that if there are any resources across this nation, that they are being made available for the three prairie provinces, and the resources of the federal government as well are being made available for the prairie provinces, and to support those in the north that are facing these wildfires head on, and to support all Saskatchewan residents. And one of the efforts that we are stepping forward with alongside Manitoba and alongside the federal government is to partner with the Red Cross in supporting our evacuees. We're providing $15 million from the province of Saskatchewan to the Red Cross, or the Canadian Red Cross, to support the work of the SPSA in supporting those that are evacuated from a community in Saskatchewan. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency is doing some excellent work in relocating those families and finding them whether it be a hotel room or a place to stay. And we now would hope that the Red Cross is going to be able to further support the work of the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency in those efforts. Again, I remind people across this province, if you have friends or family that are living in the north and are displaced, and you're able to reach out, provide them the supports that they need, and provide them a place to stay if they need. We continue to receive supports in the way of firefighters from across Canada. I believe we have one more aircraft that should arrive later today from the province of Alberta. So thank you to Alberta for that, who gratefully so are facing their own fire situation in portions of that province. As Steve said, we did lose our tanker base in La Ronge, a very, very aggressive fire that moved into the north end of La Ronge last night in the airport. Quite incredible to be here this morning to listen to how quickly the SPSA is reacting and getting an administration trailer up into La Ronge so that we can continue to dispatch our tanker aircraft, all of the aircraft that are there. No aircraft were lost. It was just the communications base in Laurent, and the SPSA has their backup plans that are in place as we speak. A number of various types of power outages and lack of power being provided in many communities throughout the north, which is like our highways, unfortunately. Sporadic is with respect to where that power is being provided, and at times it is not being provided. And Manitoba struggling with the same type of situation with fires that are impacting the power supply in many northern communities and many mine sites as well. And Alberta, through talking with Premier Smith, is having the same challenges with their northern communities and some of the oil production sites in northern Alberta. And we're working together with our neighboring provinces to do what we can to ensure that these communities have power on a consistent basis as we can. One point here is for me just to remind people of the supports that we need in the way of contact phone numbers. The SPSA, they have a toll-free line set up. 1-855-559-5502. If you have questions about the public safety operations or have something to report in the way of a fire or threat in your area, 1-855-559-5502 is the SPSA toll-free line that they've set up specific for the challenge that we have here today. We obviously have the health line. I was thought of this as we were talking with northern leaders last night, evacuating some individuals from the hospital, air evacuating a number of individuals. But if you need health advice, the health line is there and always has been there, 811. We have a rural support and stress line at 1-800-667-4442, as well as if you are evacuating or are traveling, and we encourage you not to travel, as Steve has said many times, in northern roads, if you don't absolutely have to be, as we are using those for evacuations, unfortunately. These fires are very unpredictable and moving quickly, and you may find yourself in a place where you might not be able to get out. But there is the highway hotline as well, which is there each and every day, but very important today as well, 1-888-335-7632. I just close with saying thank you again through Marlo and Steve to everyone within the SPSA. Thank you to all the northern community leaders, chiefs, mayors, everyone that's working on the front lines, defending their community, and for all those that are supporting those that are on the front lines, supporting those that are facing this extremely challenging time that Saskatchewan and more particularly northern Saskatchewan is facing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. As a reminder, we'll start with questions in the room here first, and then we will go to teams. We have a hard stop at 2:15, and I would just like to ask that when you go to ask the questions, start with your name and what outlet you're from. As a reminder,
Hi, Nigel Maxwell, P&L. Last 24 hours, 48 hours, we've heard a number of local communities. You said talk about that support, opening evacuation centers, opening their communities, Muscadet, Montreal Lake Cree Nation, Beardies. What impact of that is it affecting the evacuation process, like your side of it at all? Is it helping? Is it hindering it? Maybe you could describe the impact there in terms of that.
I think in short, it's all help. Number of individuals in communities. We have an absolutely amazing team in SPSA that works in coordinating and planning for eventual evacuation. So any asset or location that we can help support or they can support people that are evacuated is a benefit to SPSA, but more importantly to those evacuees. So in short, absolutely, it's a benefit.
and I forgot to mention too, I apologize, that we'll do one question and then we'll go one question, then we'll go to teams and if we have time. Yeah, so. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I can? Okay. Mine is for your Marlo or Steve anyway. So this is more of a technical question. So the Creighton fire shrunk in Saskatchewan, but did it grow in Manitoba? Because it was 25,000 hectares yesterday and it's 17,000 hectares today. And the other technical question is about the amount of assets lost. it really sprung up today. Was that, can you pinpoint exactly where all of the asset losses sprung up more specifically?
Sure. The change in area was we have mapped
Yeah.
the Creighton fire, of course, and up until this point, we haven't been reporting on the Manitoba side. But we have mapped our side, so it did go from the estimate of 25,000 to 17. But we also include what's actually happening in Manitoba at the same time. So that's the new information we saw today. The biggest increases we saw to the values that have been lost is there were a number of values in Orange that were impacted from the Pisu fire, Lake Orange area. But the biggest single bump there will be as there's significant structural loss in the Nair Beach.
Okay, that's what I suspected, but I needed clarification basically. Michael Alex in Prince Albert Gateway. I meant to do that and then I forgot.
Yeah, Jasmine Palshay, CTV. Would you be able to elaborate on how much property damage has been confirmed in Morange and the immediate area?
We're currently doing assessments now. We believe that there has been some home structure loss. Of course, the tanker base has been lost. We believe that there is some structural loss at the Hall Lake site from the same fire. Currently, our staff are patrolling and going through the smoky conditions to try and verify estimates versus actuals. As you can understand, when the fire goes through, the assumptions are that there's likely going to be some damage, but the level of that, whether it's damage or complete loss of those structures, will have to be verified on the ground. So the other issue with that fire, of course, it remains active. It is only within kilometers of the town. We see more if we continue to have fire encroach into the town. So it's a rolling number. We confirmed some, but again, still, unfortunately, see more losses as time goes by.
Maybe I'd comment just a little bit on the conversation I had with some of the community leaders in the Tri-City area. Some other folks, and I think the significant loss that we saw, this is family homes. It was in Nair Beach in the past. I think it's safe to say that we are going to have some loss in the north end of Orange or in that Eagles Point area from the conversations I've had with local leaders. And we're not done. Today's not going to be an easy day. And tomorrow doesn't appear to be an easy day. And so we still have everyone in those communities that is battling on the very front lines, whether it be in Creighton, whether it be in Orange, Lac Orange, or Aron, whether it be in many other communities throughout the north. We need a change in the weather, and until we get it, we are in many cases a fight for our very homes.
Okay, so I'll move to Teams. Nicole King on your meeting.
Hi, thanks. Nicole King with the Regina Leader Post. Now that we're well over 9,000 people displaced from their homes, have we hit a peak of the number of people we're able to accommodate in hotels, motels, and different temporary structures? And are we now focused on those emergency structures where, we're using arenas and community centers?
Thanks for the question, Nicole. I can assure you that our emergency crisis support unit is ongoing planning. As part of that planning, there is planning for congregate shelters if it's required, so that as a precaution with partnership with the Red Cross, we have congregate shelters set up both in Regina and Saskatoon. But right now, we still believe that we can support those evacuees in hotels throughout the province. And again, I want to thank those cities, those hotel owners for stepping up and working with us and looking to support the evacuees. So again, we, at least in the short term, we believe that we can support in the current process that we're doing in using hotels.
I'll comment on that as well. That's where we currently are, and as I said, the days ahead are going to be as challenging as the last day or 2 days have been. And and it's quite possible that there's going to be additional people that are going to have to leave their home and leave their community. And so every effort and every support that we can find to support the SPSA and the work that they do in evacuating families to a safe place, whether that be utilizing every hotel room in this province or every other room that we have access to, is going to be there. It's now going to be even more and further supported by the Red Cross, whether that be with bringing food in addition to shelter for families that are spread out across the province. The expectation will be in the ask of the Canadian Red Cross to support the SPSA in their efforts as we evacuate thousands of people.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mitchell. Please provide your media outlet.
Hi, it's Michel Comte with AFP, the Newswire. It might just be the sound quality that I misheard, but could you clarify the number of people that have been evacuated? I heard 9,000 at the top, and then Premier Moe, I believe you said we are probably approaching the neighborhood of 15,000 people. So is it 9 or 15?
Who do you want to see? 9 would be confirmed.
Yeah, we have confirmed and know that it is at least 9,000. We are still registering people, as you can imagine, this morning. So that number will grow. Our placeholder is we may see up to 15,000 out, but we know 9,000, and that number continues to grow for two reasons. People have new evacuations, but there were some people that were able to get short-term support from families and friends, but in the longer term, they're turning back to the government to find them a place to stay until they return. So everyone assumes they can go back in a couple days. The reality is some of these folks have already been out for a week or two, and that stretches resources and they approach the agency for additional support. So we continue to grow that list a little bit.
Yeah, 9,000 registered evacuees. As Steve said, many others will have found their own place for a period of time. And many others are still registering, because we had a significant evacuation of the Tri-Cities last night. And from some of the folks that I talked to, there was a convoy of vehicles coming slowly out of the Orange all the way into the Prince Albert and south. And so that number is going to grow. We expect by the registered numbers, we're looking at 9,000, but likely 50 in the neighborhood of 15,000 that are not in their home.
Thank you.
Lindsay?
Thank you. This is Mackenzie Mazinkowski with Global News. We're just hearing many people have reported challenges with communication and evacuation notices, especially given, power outages, cell service, and internet in affected communities. How is the SPSA ensuring, timely and clear information is actually reaching residents?
Steve, do you want to answer that?
We have a number of venues and applications we can use. Of course, the Sask alert that is broadcast intrusive will come across phones, TVs, can be used. But many of these are also locally driven by local community leaders in small communities. They will have their own call tree mechanisms. And part of the issue that we also see is when an evacuation alert is called in a community, some of the residents aren't in the community. They may be traveling, they may be on holidays, so they will not get the immediate local announcement because they're not in the local immediate area. So there is some time lag to some of those. It is the one, if you have any questions about evacuations or supports, use the 1-855 line. We can steer you in the right direction of potentially where your community is, where you can get your supports, and use that number. And we'll try to get you the right answers here as
I would just add to that. You're right. It is challenging. In particular, when we have cellular service that is going down, power that is going down in some communities, it's extremely challenging to get, succinct, accurate information out to large amounts of people, large numbers of people in a short period of time. My hat's off to those in the SPSA for all they are doing, working with community leaders to communicate as concisely and succinctly and as accurately and as quickly as possible to those that need it. And with respect to evacuations, the numerous people I talked to last night coming out of the Tri-Cities, it was not an easy task to be asked to leave your home in a very short period of time, literally an hour or two, and then to drive through smoke and to drive through an active fire in the ditch fire down by Wayak. So thank you to all that were involved in that evacuation, whether it be people on the highways crew that were guiding, navigating people through quite a treacherous terrain on a 2.5-hour drive from Morange to Prince Albert. If you need accurate information and you do have access to a cellular phone and you want to ground truth maybe information that you have seen, heard, or read, phone the hotline. Phone the number 1-855-559-5502. I'll share it on our social media pages here and later today. If you want to access some accurate information, phone that hotline.
Stephen?
Hi, Stephen Wilson with Discover Weyburn. Now, I know that a lot of the evacuees are coming to southern Saskatchewan. Is the easiest way to get out of some of this, especially to areas like Weyburn. And here in this part of the province, we always want to help. What can people do aside from donations to the Red Cross to help evacuees who are going through the worst time that they'll ever experience in their life for many of them? What can we do in this part of the province to make life better for them, to help them out as needed, beyond just the material donations to the Red Cross?
Thanks. I just want to make a quick comment based on your question. I think the best thing that we can all do as a province is show patience. People that are coming to your communities in the south, across central Saskatchewan as well, show patience to the people that are coming, from a very stressful situation, experience a high level of anxiety, and are sorts really from a very stressful time, having to flee, basically a fire chasing them out of their homes. As far as tangible items, those can be, have conversations with your local organizers, see what they need there. I've had meetings over the last couple days with the leaders of the various First Nations organizations, First Nations themselves, the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. They're providing safe space as well. Some of their facilities, such as the Tosh. The Tosh has been opened up for evacuees to set up camp in that traditional place, and many of the communities around the province are also opening up space for them. So I would just say that biggest thing that you can exercise or show people is patience and care and concern for their well-being. So we have more.
Stephen, I'll just a wee little bit more. We have been collecting information for individuals that do wish to volunteer, whatever that is, whether it's equipment or contractors or anybody that wants to help. And all they have to do is call the 1-855 number that the Premier has been talking about, and we will get that information, and we have a list developed, and we work on it as part of our planning cycle. So we are collecting that information. You have to realize that there is a logistical challenge on picking what needs or wants for the immediate need is, and over time. So it's just at this point in time, we're just collecting that information.
Next, we have Tamara from the Globe and Mail.
Hello, Tamara Durrani from the Globe and Mail. Thank you so much for taking our questions today. Premier Moe, how would you describe this year's fire season so far? This is a big picture question. I'm sort of wondering from all of you really, but you as a premier, from the perspective of the sheer size of these fires and the evacuees so far, it seems far from anything Saskatchewan has seen before. Could you give us a sense of what you're expecting for the rest of the season and how you're really preparing for that? I think the whole country is sort of wondering about that.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday with Premier Smith and Premier. I think Alberta actually has more fires by number today. They're in excess of 50 fires. We're about 20 fires here in Saskatchewan. Our fires are larger, however, than those in Manitoba by acres, by hectares, and we have now fires that are emerging in various places across Saskatchewan. I would say the largest challenge for us and maybe Manitoba as well, is where those fires are. They're in areas where we live, like the Nair Beach, Lac Orange, and Crate. Areas where there are, a number of people and a number of homes that the fires are bearing down on. And second to that, and Marlo walked through this the other day, that a month or a month and a half ago, we were setting up for what looked like a fairly regular fire season with the snow melt, and maybe had a little less snow in areas than we normally might have. And it was looking like a slow melt, which would be a regular spring fire season. Hasn't rained this spring in the north. Things are tinder dry, and the wind continues to blow each and every day, and every 2 days it shifts direction and threatens a community in a different way, or threatens a new community. And so just the weather patterns that we've had this spring, the fires that we have, which are largely human caused, I'm not a firefighter, and I haven't been on the front lines, but I have been involved and lived in this part of the area for all my life, this part of the province, and I've never seen anything like it in the way of the ferocity of the fires, how quickly they're moving, how they're changing and encroaching on communities in maybe different ways than we've even seen before. And if we could do anything to support our firefighters and our residents of northern communities, it's call the winning line, provide whatever support you can. They'll guide you where that can be placed. But we need to change weather. We need rain. We need rain throughout the northern part of our province, and I would say the northern part of the Prairie provinces, and we need it soon. Until we get it, we are in the fight for our very communities.
From 980 CJME.
Hi, I was hoping that maybe somebody could elaborate just a little bit more on the loss of the communications center at L'Orange. How has it impacted your operations?
Yeah, so the structure that was lost is located at the L'Orange Airport. It is what's called a tanker-based facility. They're responsible for dispatching and monitoring our firefighting aircraft. Luckily for us, that exercise is repeated at 4 other bases in the province. So we will be able to carry out operations from these other bases, but not directly from L'Orange until we can reestablish there. So for instance, if they need air tankers, that will still get done, but those tankers may be dispatched from Buffalo Narrows or Prince Albert, and they may have to go there for retardant or fuel until we can get reestablished. So it will cause some inconvenience. We've already got a workaround plan and a plan to return to normal operations as soon as we can by new facilities, establishing some, electrical grid and certain things that we're going to have to do. But we're in the business here where we usually have plan A, and we always keep a plan B and a plan C, because we're in the emergency response business. And when things are going bad, first thing that usually goes is your plan. So again, we'll adapt and we'll shift things around. Even though we don't have a radio dispatch center in L'Orange, we of course have all our aircraft intact so they can support L'Orange and the fire right there. And if we have to change, and a good example we had today is aircraft can't actually fly in L'Orange right now because of the smoke. But as the Premier mentioned, we have secured a large helicopter from Alberta that will be coming in that can work in close proximity in heavy smoke, that will be able to deliver buckets and belly tanks full of gel to suppress fires close in and around the community. So again, we'll adapt and we'll use whatever resources we can to continue to suppress and do our protection efforts here in our response.
Catherine, you're up next.
Thank you, Catherine Ludwig from Global News. Thank you all for making yourselves available today during this difficult situation. I apologize for shifting the topic a little bit with my question, but Mr. Premier, I need to ask you what you're thinking after yesterday's ministers' meeting in regards to the relationship with the federal government moving forward, and whether or not there's this remaining feeling of whether or not the provinces, especially Saskatchewan, needs to remain autonomous when it comes to things like interprovincial trade.
Yeah, so we had started the weekend by signing a memorandum of understanding with the province of Ontario on really being reciprocal with respect to interprovincial trade barriers, labor mobility barriers, or regulatory challenges, differences that we might have between our provinces. You've seen Premier Ford and Premier Houston be great advocates signing a number of MOUs across the nation, of which we were one province to do so. Coming out of our Western Premiers meeting, you'd also seen the offer of the 4 Western provinces that are signatories to the New West Partnership to offer that New West Partnership to the other 6 provinces and the 3 territories. The New West Partnership is the gold standard when it comes to free and open interprovincial trade. And should all the other provinces choose to sign on to that agreement, it would be the most significant step forward in removing trade barriers between provinces across the nation. And we encourage each of the provinces to consider so. With respect to the meeting yesterday with the Prime Minister and the 12 other premiers, I think it went well. We had good discussions with respect to nation building infrastructure. Again, coming out of the Western Premiers meeting, we talked about a port-to-port corridor connecting northwest ports such as Rupert or Kitimat to a port in the Hudson Bay. That would unleash and open up further access to the not only the Asian but the European markets for all the products that we produce in Saskatchewan, including oil and gas, which we do need to have a Pacific access point for additional oil and gas that we produce in Western Canada. How we benefit from that in Saskatchewan is not only by narrowing the differential, a higher price for the oil that we sell largely into the U.S., but it opens up capacity on our rails for potash, for agri-food products, and opens up capacity into the Port of Vancouver where those products are going. And so that port-to-port corridor, I think, is imperative to the opportunity, not only for Western Canada, but then linking into a Wind West suggestion from Nova Scotia and those in Central Canada, maybe linking into a James Bay port in Ontario, can really build into a significant piece of infrastructure that benefits all Canada. The Grays Bay link into the Arctic port, I think, is an important piece of road infrastructure that could be part of that as well. So that was one of the infrastructure projects that we had asked the federal government to support, and I think you'll see that they likely will in the days ahead. I won't speak for the Prime Minister in any way. Second to that was the discussion around prioritization of projects. And the very fact that you need to prioritize a number of projects and then legislate them through your current regulatory process, I think speaks to the fact that your current regulatory process is flawed and it needs to change. And that was the message that I brought to the table when it comes to Bill C-69, the Impact Assessment Act, the emissions cap on oil and gas production, the tanker ban off the West Coast, the clean electricity regulations. All of these regulations that are layered on top of one another have an impact on restricting investment, not only into the oil and gas production that we have in Saskatchewan and Alberta, to a lesser degree, British Columbia and Manitoba, but also in the mining sector. Also have an impact in the value-added agricultural sector, the forestry sector, any and all of the industrial sector, really. So those regulations need to change. Some need to be repealed. Some need to change. We've provided the changes that we think need to be made, all in an effort to achieve the Prime Minister's goals, the aspirations that he has for Canada to become the strongest economy in the G7. We support that. We'll work very hard for Saskatchewan to play a role in that. And for Canada to become an energy superpower, of which we also support. I would say that policies matter in order for each of us provincially, but also nationally, if we are going to have any hope of achieving those two goals. And so I thought it was a good meeting. I dare say I've only dealt with one other sitting Prime Minister. I would dare say this was likely one of the most productive First Ministers meetings that I've had in my time of 7.5 years being the premier of this province. And so thankful to Mr. Carney and my colleagues for attending. Thankful to Prime Minister Carney for hosting the meeting or co-hosting the meeting with us in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and really look forward to seeing him put some action behind the words that he has said. And I think that is going to be the test. He's said a number of things and made a number of commitments, and now it's going to take some action and some policies for those to come to fruition.
We have reached 2:15, so we will end it there. We are going to have another media availability tomorrow at 1:30. And I would just like to reinforce the 1-855-559-5503 phone for anyone who has questions.